And now it's time to speak to Nigel Jacklin from the No to Northeye campaign, because we've had Nigel on before, we've spoken to him before, because down in my part of Sussex there is a ghastly and terrible plan afoot, and that is to put some migrants inside of a what is formerly known as military prison, which hasn't been used for that purpose for a very long time. It's recently been used for all sorts of non-military purposes, including a training centre for airline workers. But the problem is, it's right smack bang in the middle of a very residential community, and Nigel's spoken to us about this before. But there's been a bit of a development, so let's find out what's happening down there in Bexhill. Nigel, very good afternoon to you.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having me back on the show.
Not at all. I saw that you delivered a petition to Rother District Council, so it now means that they have to have a discussion, which is always a good piece of our democracy. Tell us what's happened.
Yeah, so when I came on the show last, I showed the petition. Actually, that afternoon, we then got a cease and desist letter from Rother because we'd used their logo.
Oh, really?
But there's someone who likes complaining is watching the show.
Yes.
We got 2,000 signatures, which means that at the next full council, I've got 5 minutes to present on the subject of asking Rother District Council to oppose the camp.
Right.
Because privately, quite a few of the councillors have said that they're opposed to it. It's not been discussed in council, and they've not come out with a sort of council position on it.
Right. And the fact is that there had been a development, I think, before this, which was, were they not suggesting that they might be looking at using it as a sort of a locked-up facility rather than one that was open, so that people could come and go? Yeah,
so we were in Scampton on Thursday, actually, when the Home Office were there with a information session with the residents. And an email came through from our MP saying that if Northeye will be used, it would be as a secure detention centre.
Right.
But as we speak, the Home Office have yet to confirm that. I don't think Rother District Council have heard the details. They've certainly not published it. So, and in the meantime, you got this in the local paper, which I think sort of...
Yes. That pretty much says it all. That headline, for anyone who can't see it, is a lack of confidence in the Home Office to plan anything. I think that's a fair assessment, given what's going on. The Home Office have actually said to us that we are committed, they say, to the removal of foreign criminals and those with no right to be in the UK. Immigration removal centres play a vital role in controlling our borders, and we have been finding further solutions to scale up our detention capacity. Now, without saying it in as many words, that would suggest that they're certainly looking at Northeye as a place which would be a detention centre. Now, that's all well and good, I suppose, but I've seen other footage of people outside demonstrating, because some of these ludicrous charities demonstrate outside detention centres and sort of throw food over fences and things and sing the praises of the people inside those detention centres, because they now not only welcome people into the country, they don't want them to be removed either. So I presume you wouldn't want... I mean, it might be better to have a lock-up than an open sort of, you know, situation, but you presumably you'd still rather not have it at all.
Correct. We've spoken to a lot of people in town over the weekend, and people within the group. We are both... So we support the idea that people will be detained and deported. And the conundrum is that if that works and that deters arrivals, you then don't need a detention centre.
No.
Or rather, you need smaller ones. So there's an urgent need. I quite like what you just put up with what the Home Office said.
Yeah.
They just actually need to do it, don't they?
Well, exactly. The problem is they can be committed as much as they wish to the removal of foreign criminals, but so far, I think this year they've only removed about 20. You know, meanwhile, sort of 20,000 have come the other way.
Yeah, and whilst people are a bit happy about this, the summary is it's less worse. And what people are worried about, and there's some stuff from Brighton on this, so if they have been helped or encouraged to get here, it may be difficult for them to get out, but there could well be people who will help them to do so from the outside.
Yes.
And the Brighton stuff is that Brighton's had funding to combat Albanian crime gangs, and yet somehow, miraculously, the Home Office put over 200 new Albanians in a hotel there without telling the local council.
Right.
And the local councillor that I spoke to in Brighton couldn't believe that those young Albanian men magically got there on their own, that they must have been helped.
Right.
And he was even concerned that someone within the Home Office may have been complicit with it.
Yeah. Was this before? Are you talking about the time when the Albanian young men were put in hotels and then supposedly children were taken from that hotel?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were adolescents.
So that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, and there are still some who haven't been found.
Right.
And basically, the problem is that the perception is that these are desperate and deserving people, but many of them are purely determined.
Yes.
And I talked with I'm part of the independent network of counsellors. We talked about this last week. There are probably 10 to 100 times as many deserving people back where these people have come from. And that's where the help should be focused.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. I mean, even Caroline Lucas, the Green MP for Brighton, was asking questions about this particular story, I remember, in the House of Commons, and didn't get any specific answers because, of course, the question about whether they're children or not is also a kind of question that needs a bit of examination, because they may or may not be older teenagers, and they may or may not be being recruited into all sorts of, dodgy businesses. Yeah,
and we could have left school at 16, and it's the same in Albania and a lot of these countries. You are effectively an adult at the age of 16.
Yeah.
Whether they've got all of the way to Calais of their own volition or been helped, and there's ways in which these are funded that the person getting there doesn't actually need to fund it themselves.
Well, this is the problem. I think we've become to realise where initially people thought that those coming across the channel were paying for their own passage. Many of them are becoming indebted to the human traffickers in order to do it. And when they get here, they get told, well, now you owe us $5,000. Here's where you're going to go to earn it to pay us back.
Yes. And when we've done our protests, so we've got the next one a week on Saturday,
right.
The worst abuse we got was from the car wash.
Oh, really? Well, there's a funny thing. But, I mean, it's funny that you and I can have these conversations and hardly anybody in government seems to know what's going on. But I think that headline about the Home Office probably sums it up. I mean, it still looks as though, Nigel, though, that anything that makes that area in Bexhill near Little Common into some kind of camp is still a very long way off.
Correct, yeah. It's still owned by an interesting group of private investors, an LLP, which we understand was specially created for the purposes of acquiring it.
Right.
During the interesting first half of last year. So they bought it in August, they still own it, it's an LLP.
Right.
If they were to use it as a secure detention centre, they would need to put new buildings, and they would obviously need to improve the security because, kids with wire cutters can get in.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you can break in.
Well, they can just give Wandsworth Prison a call. They'll bring their security guys down. They can fix it for them. I'm sure that would be...
The man in charge of property at the Home Office has been in position for 2 months and was previously head of property at HM Prisons.
Really?
So they kind of obviously needed to find someone who knows how to keep people in.
Yes.
But, they're a long way from being able to use it.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Interesting. Well, thank you for the update, Nigel. Wish you well. Thank you very much indeed. Nigel Jacklin, No to Northeye campaign. Going well down there because it looks like they've got Rother Council certainly on the back foot, if not on the run altogether.